Welcome to They Call This a Movie, testing the strength of friendships one terrible movie at a time. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and other podcast services by searching They Call This a Movie, and find us on Blue Sky, Threads, and Instagram at TicTamPod. That's TCTAM Pod. Welcome back to They Call This a Movie. This is Anthony Del Vecchio. With me, as always, is Dan Aquino and Mark Meyer. Say hello, gentlemen.
Hello, friends.
Hello, everyone. Not a real deep thing today to open the show. Just glad and surprised that it's Gerarduary already, which is my third favorite time of the year, beyond Toyotathon and Happy Honda Days. So
I think those are two of the same, though, right? Toyotathon and Happy Honda Days are the same. Are they not the same time period?
I don't know. Thanks for poking a hole in the bit, Dan.
Wow.
Don't leave it open.
Yeah, you got to do your research. You could have said truck month.
Truck month. Those are my favorite things. It's the fake holidays that car commercials make up going on.
They're just as real as anything else, honestly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, especially in this country now.
So. Yeah, if not more so, because
they're going to be more important than the. Soon. Honda Days are going to be more important than Black History Month in this country.
Sure. Yeah, we'll get an executive order for days off on Happy Honda Days and Toyota.
I believe those are foreign cars, gentlemen.
Oh, I'm sorry. So truck month.
Yes, exactly. Truck month.
Yeah,
that's Ford.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad it wasn't a deep bit, Mark.
Yeah.
Famously, your bits are pretty groundbreaking stuff.
Like, this is the point where I wish I could remember off the top of my head the Deep Thoughts guy from Saturday Night Live.
Jack Handy?
Jack Handy, yes.
There you go.
It's going to make a Jack Handy reference for all the young kids out there.
Yeah, who doesn't remember that? 2/3 of this podcast.
We're firing on all cylinders tonight, gentlemen.
Yeah. It's February, people. Yeah.
Doing our boy Gerard Butler proud.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Who cares anymore? There are no rules.
Nope.
In this world
Wild
anymore.
West, baby.
Yeah.
It's Thunderdome, baby.
It's Thunderdome.
And this movie is giving me a new way to count things to a deadline.
This movie, and we're going to get into it, but this movie is a farce from the get-go.
Yes.
And when we get into it, I'll explain.
Yeah.
But just so you and I know, just right from jump, this movie does not happen.
Yeah.
And
it's also a movie of broken promises.
Big time. It does give you a lot of hope.
Yeah.
To yank it away.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, as we mentioned, this is Gerarduary, the one time a year that I allow Dan to do a Gerard Butler movie. Not for any reason other than because if we didn't, Dan would pick a Gerard Butler movie every week. So, as he is the keeper of Gerarduary, Dan, this week was your pick. So, Dan, why don't you introduce this week's movie?
Thank you, Anthony. I appreciate that introduction. And for this year's Gerarduary installment, I think it was past due for the 2017 classic Geostorm. It's a movie that has been talked about since its debut, and it will probably be talked about for future generations. But I was kind of putting off picking Geostorm for obvious reasons, but trying to get into a little bit more in-depth Gerard Butler. But we're running out of Gerard Butler movies. we're coming down to the wire here. Like next, I think is Greenland. So we need more Gerard Butler movies. Stat. But yeah,
well, he does make a cameo in movie 43. So
that was something that was on my radar, but I didn't know if it would count for this podcast because that's something along the lines of like a scary movie type of thing where it's in on the joke.
Sure.
And it's just not, I don't know if it's worth it, but maybe when we get down to the nitty gritty, we'll get there. But yeah, Geostorm. I saw it was available and I figured why not? So let's just jump right into the shitstorm of this movie. And I've heard other podcasts talk about this famously, like how did this get made, covered this. And so I knew what to expect going in, and I was still disappointed in this movie. I was still so upset because there were unlike other disaster movies, Armageddon, Independence Day, The Day After Tomorrow,
Moonfall.
Moonfall, yeah, another amazing movie. But I felt no stakes in this movie at all. Like I cared about the characters in Armageddon. That's one of my guilty pleasure movies. I enjoy that. But I felt invested in those characters. In this movie, I could not care less about anyone involved, Gerard Butler included.
Mhm.
They're so one-dimensional. Everyone is so one-dimensional. It's almost just like for the script purposes, it's just stick them in and play kind of thing. Like, yeah, just put this guy in there, and this is what he does. Put this woman in there, this is what she does. Like, nothing really outside of their job that you know of. My one of my favorite parts of this movie is that Gerard Butler has a brother, Max, played by Jim Sturgis, and Gerard Butler has a obvious accent where Jim Sturgis does not have an accent, and they try to cover it up by saying that they were born in the UK, as if that makes it make sense.
I'm going to stop you right there. Jim Sturgis does 100% have, or is hiding, poorly a British accent.
No, he does not. I did not pick up on a British accent.
Oh man, I was one of my first questions was going to be who's doing a worse job at hiding their accent.
Did you really think I did? Well, I know he was born in London, but he does not have a British accent.
He 100% does. Not in this movie. He's not supposed to have one in this movie, but he absolutely does.
But if it makes no sense because this is a movie about the countries of the world uniting to create this weather controlling machine called Dutch Boy. So just have them be from the UK.
100%. It makes so much more sense, especially when there's an offhanded line about I think Jim Sturgis goes to visit Gerard Butler in his trailer or whatever, and he talks about like one of the only things he cares about is his football club. I was like, what?
That should have given it away. I do remember that, but it stuck out to me because I was like, why is he saying football club? He's American.
Yeah, and also the girl of the moment, Abby Cornish, is Australian. So we make them all American.
Yeah, rap fans will know her as Dusk, apparently, according to her IMDb page.
Okay, so she's a singer by trade.
Also known by her rap name Dusk. Sure, why not?
Yeah. Anything goes in Australia.
Yeah.
There's no one there. There's no one there to check them, I guess, in Australia.
Yeah, she could be a breakdancer for all we know.
Yeah, until they show up to the Olympics breakdancing.
Right. Yeah, like everything is copacetic down there because no one knows any better. But then when they get to the real world, it's like, wait a minute, you can't do that.
It's hard to keep tabs on them because it's a 20-hour plane ride.
They use that to their advantage.
Yep.
No, I didn't pick up on any of these accents outside of Gerard Butler.
Was he just that bad at hiding it that everyone else was like, "Oh, that's a Yank right there."
Yeah, I did, I guess, with Jim Sturgis because I was like, oh well, why doesn't he just have a British accent if they're both from the UK? It boggled my mind.
It's this performance by Gerard Butler was very Sean Connery in terms of no matter where you put me, my accent's coming through.
I was like,
I'm not even trying to hide it.
The Hunt for Red October, Sean Connery.
Yeah, Hunt for Red October.
Yeah.
The Soviet man with the British accent.
Yep. Yeah. Why not? It's Gerard Butler has not entered that. As much as I love him, and he's a cool dude, he has not entered that stratosphere of actor where you can just play yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's not Jack Nicholson, where just like that's who you're getting. You're just getting Jack Nicholson or Sean Connery. You still need to like at least feign some effort when doing these roles, I think.
Yeah. Geostorm from 2017 is directed by Dean Devlin, who directed Bad Samaritan, episodes of Leverage, Librarians, Leverage Redemption, and The Ark. Stars Gerard Butler, Jim Sturgis, Abby Cornish, Alexandra Maria Lara, Daniel Wu, Eugenio Derbez, Andy Garcia, Ed Harris, Zazie Beetz, and Richard Schiff. IMDb score of 5.3, Rotten Tomatoes score of 18%. Box office, or budget's $120 million. Box office, $33 million US, $220 million worldwide. So, Mark, where are you coming from with Geostorm?
Yeah, so outside of hearing about it, tangentially, through podcasts and just internet jokes about it, I haven't actually seen this movie. So I didn't really know. I don't even know if I really listened to I probably listened to the episode of How Did This Get Made on it, but I didn't know much about it going in. From the beginning, I thought it was going to be like another one of those, disaster movies where, what happens before the movie starts is what the actual movie is about and not what the actual movie is about. If you know what I'm saying, like there's all these storms and they create Dutch Boy and I thought the movie was going to be about the creation of Dutch Boy, and how they did all that to stop a geostorm, not this weird governmental spy thriller they were trying to also have in this disaster movie. And outside of the point that, as the three of us talked, I clocked Ed Harris as probably the number one person that was going to be a backstabber in this movie, because it is Ed Harris. At least to me, throwing Andy Garcia in there gave me a little bit. He was looking too suave as the president, to not be somebody that had. I watched too much 24. To not immediately think the U.S. president, when it's not David Palmer, is doing something illegal. But yeah, this entire movie felt like, the way I put it is, I don't know exactly if this describes it well or not, but to me it felt like a sequel. Like this would have been us coming back to this after watching the first movie, when they saved the world. Because the whole plot of this movie kind of makes no sense for the most part. Like, so they're going to use the storm to wipe out the world. Ed Harris is going to become president, take over the world, I guess, and will be one nation after the geostorm. But somehow Ed Harris knows he can save himself from the geostorm, or there'll be enough people left for it. Like, everything about the plot is so convoluted in terms, not even the plot of the movie, but if you would just take his plot to take over the world is so insane, that it doesn't even work on if you're trying to do a good spy thriller, as well. And it was just a whole mess all over the place. And there wasn't even actually any good performances to, hang your hat on. Even Gerard Butler, as good as he can be in some movies, seemed a little bit phoned in for most of it. But yeah, it just felt like they were trying to make this bigger than it should have been. And I think if they would have focused on one avenue between disaster movie and spy thriller, maybe they could have gotten a good movie out of it. But the way they did it just absolutely made no sense. And they sometimes called their shot way too easily. I'm thinking of the self-driving car moment where she specifically mentions that it's a self-driving car, and then you're like, oh, that's going to come back at some point. And like, yeah, not even the dumb twist of who has the kill codes is kind of dumb and stupid. Like, how do you transfer it to the next president?
Right, if it's through their eye scan and finger scan.
Yeah,
it would take a long time to do, I'd imagine. Yeah,
and exactly, like, if the president is assassinated, like, how quickly can they transfer it to the vice president?
Right.
Like,
it's not like a numerical code.
Yeah.
That could be transferred in a message.
Easily. Yeah. But yeah, everything about this, like I said, I would have much rather, my last point on it is, I would have much rather watch the story of what happened before this movie than this movie.
Okay. Yeah. As for me, it's a lot of broken promises. Didn't really get much of a geostorm. And as Dan said, just didn't feel like a whole lot of stakes. I thought about that when like they're driving down the street in Orlando, and it's just too much lightning. Because like the Meg, when we said the shark's too big, the stakes don't feel real.
Mhm.
That's how it felt like for me in that scene. The stakes don't feel real because there's just too much lightning. Just too much lightning that wasn't hitting them.
Yeah.
So it barely felt. There felt like no weight to any of it. Like physically, didn't seem. Obviously, the lightning it doesn't have weight literally, but like it just felt so much like a CG piece of effect.
Yeah, my turning point on that was the kid driving through Hong Kong while the gas pipes were exploding.
This movie is rife with people being able to outrun weather, and that it's one of my favorite tropes in these disaster movies, where there's an invisible force that is like, frost. There's the scene in Rio de Janeiro where the woman is running down the alleyway and behind her everything is flash freezing.
Yeah.
That's not how weather works.
Yeah.
It's not just like it's not a curtain that just you draw, like across. It's in the atmosphere around you. So that happens, and to your point, the lightning. I had written down it was almost as if there was someone shooting the lightning at the car.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like a wizard is shooting, like trying to hit the car, and they just can't hit the car with the lightning bolts.
Damn Zeus.
It's too much lightning.
Yeah. There's a point where the shark is too big, and then there's just too much lightning on the screen.
Yeah, because I know the whole point of these movies is to make it so grand, where it's this disaster is incredible, like a giant shark. It's a 100-200 foot long shark, or a geostorm. I after watching this, I still don't know what a geostorm is.
I don't either.
Right, because they're towards the end, you get the classic countdown to X destruction, right?
Yeah.
And meanwhile, so it's like 10 minutes till Geostorm. But
time to Geostorm.
Yeah, time to Geostorm. 10 minutes or whatever. But on the map, you're just seeing all these red dots shining. Each red dot signifies a natural disaster.
Mm-hmm.
Like how much worse could it be? There's literally like fire tornadoes happening in some areas, and tsunamis in Dubai.
Yeah.
Like, is that not the Geostorm?
And there's people just frozen in place in some places.
Yeah, I guess the Geostorm is would have been like one big giant storm, but they never even show that.
The Geostorm was the friends we made along the way.
Exactly.
That's probably what it was. Yeah. I like your idea, Mark, that this movie it felt as if it was the sequel to them trying to solve the problem. In the first movie would be them trying to solve the extreme weather patterns, and we invent Dutch Boy, right? Because we get the little preamble where the daughter, I think, is doing the dialogue, the opening dialogue.
Yeah.
Right, talking about all the extreme weather and no one believed it, blah blah blah. And then we invented Dutch Boy to do that. So, and that's what I mean by this movie makes no sense, because there is no way we as a people would unify to stop this from happening.
Yeah. Well, Dan, you got to think about the time and place this movie was made. It
2017.
came out in 2017, so this was made during the Obama administration. So what a different time.
I guess so. And for 2017, it looks terrible.
Mm-hmm.
But I kept thinking to myself, there's half of the country would think this is bullshit while this was happening, right? Massive sun flares out in the Northeast and stuff like that, sweltering heat and all that, and then in Florida there would just be desert and all that, but no one would believe it. Oh no,
they should just sweep the forest floor. That's
exactly that would be their way of thinking.
Yeah,
so,
and I literally thought in the beginning of this movie when we were getting the voiceover that it was going to be she's doing this voiceover about and that's why we invented Dutch Boy, and then it would go and it'd be like 3 years earlier, and then we would jump into the movie there.
So Ant's gonna get mad at me for this, but I have to say it.
Don't say anything about X-Men.
Not X-Men. I promise you it's not X-Men. But you know what movie did this better?
League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Pacific Rim, because they show you how they got to where they were in Pacific Rim, right? There's a giant monster attack. The humans kind of band together. They make robots to fight, and at first it doesn't do that well, and this, that, and the other thing. This is just there's massive storms happening, and we invented Dutch Boy. The end.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no logical.
Sorry, Dan. And the way they talk about what happened when Dutch Boy was started seems like the great end to a movie.
Yes.
Like everybody's saying not to start it, but we needed to do it or the world would end, so I hit the button anyway. Like, fuck, that's a great end to a movie. Like, why didn't we get that movie?
You could have it where Gerard Butler's character, Jake Lawson, is an inventor. Like he's a meteorologist, whatever, right? And all of his inventions, because he's shown building things. He is good with his hands, right? As I'm sure Gerard Butler is, wink, wink. And you could have it where all of his inventions just don't hit the mark, or they're just not very good. And finally, this is the one that hits, right? It's like his big invention that no one believed would work. It works. Instead, it works automatically, and then they fire him for some reason, only to bring him back 3 scenes later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's like, again, no stakes whatsoever. It could have been. They would have made more sense in the movie that you're talking about, Mark, where he invents this, and they're not sure if they're going to use it or not, and they kick him off the project, and then they realize, oh shit, yeah, we really need Jake, and they bring him back, and he comes back in the nick of time.
If anybody hasn't seen this movie, the plot is basically what we've been talking about, but essentially Gerard Butler plays this scientist who has created what is essentially a satellite to prevent natural disasters from occurring. It's kind of all over the world. This is, as Mark mentioned, it's a movie we don't get to see, but essentially the Earth is dying from all these natural disasters, and they create this thing, and everybody lives in peace and harmony, I guess, is what's supposed to be the point. But our movie is that there is corruption at the government level in order to use this as a device, as a doomsday device, essentially killing off our enemies in order to make our lives better. Now, I know what you're thinking. A corrupt government? Come on. But this isn't science fiction after all, gentlemen. So you shouldn't be surprised.
I had written down, do you think Marjorie Taylor Greene saw this movie and thought it was real?
Yeah, I mean, she's probably looking up Gerard Butler's religion.
Well, because Andy Garcia plays a Democratic president, President Andrew Palma. So it's like, oh, you see, I knew it. The Dems have a weather controlling machine. They could do whatever they want. And she couldn't make the connection that this is fiction.
Yeah.
So they're hiding in plain sight. They know.
Yeah.
And I had also written down that this is where the idea of nuking a hurricane might have come from.
Probably.
That's kind of what happens in the beginning, right? With Dutch Boy, they just shoot all of these like pods into the hurricane or the eye of the storm, and it dissipates. So like a certain someone was watching this movie, like, that's a great idea. We'll just we'll fire a nuke into it.
This is one of those movies. I don't know if it still happens. I'm sure it does, but it's like I'm just looking at like the box office, the compare and contrast between the U.S. box office, which was paltry for a $120 million movie, $33 million, and the worldwide gross for $220 million. Back then, like around this time, like it was very obvious that movies were being written and cast to appeal to foreign markets, like the character of Daniel Wu. Daniel Wu's character of Cheng Long, of like he's probably like a a big actor in Hong Kong. So it's like, oh, well, they can market this movie as a Daniel Wu movie, or Alexandra Maria Lara from Romania. Got to get those Romania money.
Yeah, that's a big market.
Yeah, but it just seemed like, it just seems crass almost in a way.
I think, and then they even mention it at the beginning how like China was kind of at the forefront of this, and like they were a huge help in getting Dutch Boy made. I was like, yeah, they're kind of they're letting you know, like, hey, China, this is for you guys, Like Moonfall does it. I think, speaking of the Meg is a big one, right? A lot of Chinese actors are in those movies.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, yeah, if it does well in America, great. But this is really meant for overseas audiences.
Yeah, but disappointing. A disappointing Gerarduary.
In a way, yes, but also in a way, I can't really defend
In a way, this is exactly what you would expect from Gerarduary.
Yeah, right. It's on brand.
Yeah.
I don't know. I agree with Mark with how he framed the whole twist of the movie just being a plot to kill the president, right? The Secretary of State, Ed Harris.
Not just the president.
Well, to like wipe out government.
Every person in the line of succession, which they mentioned 3 times in those 2 scenes.
It just seems like a lot of work to do all of that.
Yeah.
By hijacking what must be $1 trillion piece of equipment to do all of that, and to make it seem like a mystery as well.
And I love how they did the old trope of him saying the guy's name after, Max never told him that's who told him about Project Zeus.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird because immediately we were talking off of recording, but Anthony and I knew Ed Harris was the bad guy just immediately, because why else would you hire Ed Harris to be in your disaster movie?
Mm-hmm.
But he shows up at the beginning, right? There's a scene where after the Afghanistan village is flash frozen and they cut to the war room with Andy Garcia, Ed Harris, Jim Sturgis, and they're all talking. And you don't see Ed Harris for another hour of the movie. He just like disappears completely from the movie until the third act, when it's revealed he's the bad guy. Like, we probably could have had a little bit more of Ed Harris in this movie to just to keep reminding you, like, what he's capable of and how he's manipulating things possibly from the shadows, not just a few scenes. But listen, this is Gerard's. This is his vehicle. No one overstages Gerard Butler. I get it.
I was gonna say, is it his really? Because he's stuck in the spaceship for most of it. Like it becomes halfway through. It becomes Jim Sturgis's movie, and no one asked for that.
Gerard Butler doesn't accomplish a whole lot on the space station.
Yeah, he's stuck waiting for his brother to come through with some codes that he never gets.
I at one point, like towards the end, because you guys were talking about just how crazy it was with them being able to avoid the lightning strikes, and just Abby Cornish's character is like the fucking Terminator in this movie.
Yeah.
She's driving backwards, shooting guys in a moving car, like just doing all these crazy skills, but she's just like a regular Secret Service agent.
For a second thought she was going to be like the second in command to the bad guy.
That would have been
because she always seemed to be there when he was talking about something. Like she knew that guy was coming, from Hong Kong.
Right. Yeah, and when Daniel Wu's character gets run over, she doesn't seem very upset. Right? She just casually dials 911, or she calls someone. But I thought the same thing, Mark. Like, oh man, she seemed pretty relaxed there for a man just getting hit by a car.
Yeah. All right. You guys got final thoughts for this movie? Dan?
This is a toughie. I will say I was thoroughly disappointed in Geostorm. Even though, again, I knew what to expect coming into it. Gerard, you're my guy. I will defend you to the death. But you could have. I feel like you could have done a little bit better here, sir. I agree. At times, it kind of feels phoned in. I don't know anything about these characters really. I know that he and Jim Sturgis were brothers in the movie. Outside of that, I don't know much. Dodgy CGI in this movie for a 2017 film with a $120 million budget. It looks gross at times. There's no stakes whatsoever. I didn't care who lived or died. Just a very convoluted plot. I would probably steer clear of this movie unless you like Gerard Butler. You just need to finish it out. But yeah, I could not recommend this movie.
All right, Mark.
Yeah. So just reiterating my thing, I would have liked to have seen the movie that took place before this movie more than this one. I just think there's so many different plot twists you could have had in this movie if you would have kept it being a governmental spy movie and just had sort of the disaster be like a little bit in the background. Like basically, if we don't solve the spy thing, then something will happen to Dutch Boy. Not something's already happening to Dutch Boy while this is going on. I think you could have had such better luck with that kind of story here. But it was also in the time period, the end of that time period when everybody was making their disaster movies because of 2012 when the world was supposed to end. So it was just overall just lacking in everything you would want. I haven't seen it in a while, but in terms of a disaster movie, I would even say like Moonfall is a better disaster movie than this, as ridiculous as Moonfall is. I think it knows what it is and it, hits on a lot of the things that a movie like this should. And I don't think Geostorm knew what it wanted to be outside of just a movie starring or had Gerard Butler's name in the credits to sell the studios. That was about it that I saw. I wish there was more just because, weather disaster movies can sometimes be fun in terms of, last second heroics and all that. But like everything seemed like stakes is the best way to put it. Everything low stakes. There was no point where I thought, they would fail. They should have just had him die in the station and not survive. That would have been a better ending. But yeah, overall, I would have liked to have seen the development of Dutch Boy rather than whatever this movie gave us.
Yep. As for me, kind of echoing what everybody's saying, I don't believe we got the right movie. It seems it's a movie that's not even interested in the disaster part of it, even though it kind of packages itself to be one. It spends way too much time with international intrigue or spy stuff, and just like, all right, well, that's not the movie I bought my ticket for, and for lack of a better term, even though I didn't watch this in theaters. It's just Gerard Butler sitting in a space station while Jim Sturgis fights the Secretary of State while lightning is going on all around them. That's really what this movie is. Not enough geostorms is really what this movie comes down to. Like, The Day After Tomorrow is a geostorm from what I come to understand as a geostorm. And that, that movie's doesn't have like Statue of Liberty covered in snow and on the poster. That's what I was buying my ticket for.
Mm-hmm. That's a better disaster movie as well.
Yeah. Look, yeah, it's just the arm of the Statue of Liberty poking out of what looks to be, it depends on what poster you're looking at. One's a giant tidal wave, the other one's snow. The snow is covering the water all the way to Manhattan Island. Yeah, that sounds like a geostorm to me.
Yeah.
Maybe that movie should have been called the Geostorm. This could have been called The Day After Tomorrow.
It could have been.
Yeah.
Just do a nice swap.
Is this like how every Star Wars movie has the wrong tagline, like secondary title?
Sure. But yeah, that's it. That's Geostorm. And that's Gerarduary. Dan, you are the keeper of Gerarduary. Do you have anything you want to say about this year's Gerarduary before we cut the break?
Not my favorite, but it needed to be done. You got to wade through the geostorms to get to the. Oh, geez, I don't. What's a good Gerard Butler movie? The 300s, I guess. which that's not even that great of a movie. It's fine. Yeah. Listen, I will always defend Gerard Butler. I think he's a cool guy. I've long said that I would grab a beer with him. I also think that How Did This Get Made kind of aped us a little bit with our Gerard Butler shtick. So, Paul Scheer, you guys kind of owe us a little bit for this one. I'll let you have it.
They're probably listening to this right now.
I'm sure they are getting all annoyed with us. Like, how dare they? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'll tell you what. This does not make me look forward to next Gerarduary.
All right. We're going to take a quick break, and you guys are going to listen to some ads. But before we do, Dan, what do you got for us?
Real quick, guys, go check out some friends of the podcast. Top 10 with Tia. I've talked about her all the time. It's a top 10 list where Tia and her co-host Brittany just run down their list of the week. It's at geekvibesnation.com. Go check it out. And our very own Mark Myers has the Game Vault podcast. It's a weekly podcast where he is talking about video game news, stuff going on in the industry, video games that he's playing, stuff you should be on the lookout for. You could find it on any podcast platform of your choice. It's every week. And he's also streaming on Twitch at Game Vault Pod, and all of the socials are at Game Vault Pod. So go check him out, like, review, follow, all that good stuff.
Okay, great. And we're going to take a quick break, and you guys are going to listen to some ads to pay those bills, and we will be right back. And welcome back. Now it's time to get into the third segment this week. And this week we're going to do a fantasy draft. Haven't done a fantasy draft in a while, and we wanted to talk disaster movies because Geostorm left a bad taste in our disaster movie mouths. So, as we usually do, we are going to pick 4 movies for our fantasy draft teams. And off podcast, I spun a wheel. So it'll be myself, Mark, and Dan, and we always do snake order. So Dan will get the 4th pick and back to me. All right, you guys ready?
Yes.
Let's do it.
Perfect. I am going to start with a classic disaster film that I don't think anyone will argue with picking this first off the board. We are going Armageddon.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
That was probably all of our first picks.
Consensus first pick.
Yeah.
Consensus first pick. You can have some people saying that what was the other version of this? Deep Impact. You might have your Deep Impact truthers out there, but the answer is Armageddon because they don't know anything about drilling.
Such a great cast.
Yeah.
Great cast. Bruce Willis, other guys. Good cast. Makes no sense. It's got Steven Tyler's the Aerosmith song is a banger and also just pure 90s cheese.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah. It's the culmination of 90s blockbusters where you had to have that song too. You had to have the song.
Yep.
I think that was Aerosmith's only number 1 hit or like top 10 hit.
Good, they're overrated.
They've been around for a long time, and that was their only one.
Yeah. But yeah, Armageddon. Alrighty. Mark, your first pick.
Yeah, so my one question I have is
if you can argue it, I will allow it. I'm not here to yuck your yum there, bud.
Okay. Because the second movie that came to mind in terms of a movie that has disasters in it, was taking the 1996 classic Twister.
Damn it.
As a disaster movie.
Dan says damn it, so I will allow it.
Yeah, that's 100% a disaster movie.
Okay. Because I mention it all the time, the limited VHSs that I had in my house. Twister was one of them. So I've seen that movie a whole bunch, and it might have one of the best, random supporting cast that just became, household names afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking, PSH mostly. But Yeah, that movie is it. I still at times, whenever it's raining real heavy out or really windy, I will randomly say, "We got cows,"
Yeah.
just out of nowhere. And it also has the most ridiculous moment where he saves himself while a tornado goes over by tying a belt to his wrist and holding onto an in-ground pipe.
Hey, man.
And that is how he survives.
That's fine American leather, man.
Fine American leather. Great movie. Mainly because the performances are great, which is you can take any sort of mundane sort of Storm Chasers script a little bit, as an idea, and have great actors performing the things, and it makes it a great movie. So Twister was definitely my number 2, which makes it my first round pick.
Okay. Dan, what about you?
It has Twister has some great lines too. It's already here.
We gotta get off of this road.
Like he knows where it's going. It's great. God damn it.
Imminent ruage.
Food. Philip Seymour Hoffman's fantastic in that movie. So good. Rabbit is good. Rabbit is wise.
Fashionably late again, Jonas.
Yeah. Harry Elways. Man, I gotta go watch. I gotta go watch Twister now at 11:30 at night. You guys fucked me good on this one. All right. I'm not even happy with this pick, but it has a grumpy Tommy Lee Jones in it. I'll take Volcano at my first round pick.
Okay. That's all you got to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a man who jumps off of a train into lava to save another man, which is pretty harrowing. It's something that's stuck in my brain.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll take that. Gosh, slim pickings. This genre does not really lend itself to much. Let's go Independence Day. Right, that's a disaster movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was going to be my next pick.
Yeah. Welcome to Earth.
Yeah. It's got all the staples. The asteroids just or blowing shit up. All that kind of good stuff.
That has some great
Liberty.
Lines. Let's go faster.
Must go faster. Checkmate. just Jeff Goldblum hamming it up. It's great.
Yep.
Who plays his dad? The guy from Taxi.
Judd Hirsch.
Judd Hirsch hamming it up as well. I'm not Jewish. We can't all be perfect. So good.
Vivica Fox being a stripper for no reason.
Yeah. Why you got to do her like that?
She could have been anything.
She could have been a nurse.
Could have been a nurse.
It would have made sense when she finds the first lady and tries to perform like triage on her.
Yeah.
They did her so dirty in that movie. Just I guess a lame excuse to see her on a stage half naked.
Yeah. Alrighty. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah. I will take the Armageddon to Volcano's Deep Impact and take 1997's Dante's Peak, starring James Bond himself.
Okay. I wasn't following you there, but I'm glad we got there.
I kind of picked up what you were putting down there.
I wasn't sure if you were picking Deep Impact or...
I followed that logic. You're like, so Deep Impact... Armageddon... Deep Impact is the lesser version of Armageddon, whereas Dante's Peak is the lesser version of Volcano.
I was doing the opposite, that Dante's Peak is the better movie than Volcano.
I would say the same. Volcano is not as good as Dante's Peak, but I like Volcano.
That was what I'm going for.
Yeah.
One of my favorite parts of this movie, besides the fact that the only reason I really did see it was a mixture of two movies I had watched a lot at that point. T2 and GoldenEye, being Pierce Brosnan and Linda Hamilton in this movie. Was in this movie, there's a scene, I believe it's got to be Dante's Peak. I was trying to confirm this, but it's where the girl is walking across the lake of acid.
It was the old lady. The old lady,
The old lady. Yeah. And it was just like, that was it's so burned in my mind, that scene, that I just remembered that and not like where it came from.
Just screaming in agony, pushing a boat with the children on it.
Yeah. When you see this at 11, 12 years old, it sort of burns a little bit into the brain. But Dante's Peak was Yeah, acid was the quicksand of our day. I don't know if that's true. I was just
Well, like acid rain was a big problem in the
yeah,
90s.
yeah. So yeah,
I think it was just a big thing in the 90s because our textbooks of science class were from the 70s.
Yeah, it didn't go that far.
that's true. Yeah, it didn't go that far. But yes, Dante's Peak is an actual solid movie. And yeah, it's one of the ones that I always do a talking to people that watch movies. I go, hey, you remember Dante's Peak? And it always starts a good conversation.
Do you say it like that?
Yes. Hey, you ever
sound
watched
like-
Dante's Peak?
You sound like you're trying to lure a child into your head.
You kids want to see a dead body?
You kids want to see Dante's Peak?
Oh, that is a whole different connotation. If you
I don't know, mister. My mom said never to go watch a disaster movie with a stranger. A stranger's just a friend you haven't met yet.
yeah,
It's not like he asked you to watch Volcano.
yeah.
I think you can
That's
trust
true.
a guy that knows the difference.
This guy has taste. That's good.
All right. For me, I'm going to mix it up a little bit. I'm going to go with virus disasters. I'm going to go with Outbreak.
It's a good
I was
one.
hoping that was
Second
going back
pick.
around to me.
With Dustin Hoffman and
Yeah.
Rene Russo?
That sounds about right.
I feel like that's a Rene Russo type movie.
Yeah.
Yes, it is Rene Russo and Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman and monkeys. It was all the rage back in the AIDS crisis.
Another thing that if it were to happen today, no one would believe.
Yeah. Fuck
Yeah,
you.
this was Ebola.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Mm.
I
Solid
wonder
movie.
I wonder if it was made around the time because there was some point in the 90s there was like one person that had gotten on a plane with Ebola and landed in America. And I wonder if when the people wrote this movie, you know, they saw that in the news and then like that was the catalyst for that, the singular person
Mhm.
to land in America with this disease.
Isn't the whole like thing at the end of Contagion? They're getting ready to shoot a monkey or something like that, but they don't know if it's the real, like if this monkey is the one that's contagious.
Contagion or Outbreak?
Oh, Outbreak.
I don't remember the ending of Outbreak. I remember the ending of Contagion being real downer.
Yeah,
Just
right, with the
burning
bat.
all the bodies or something.
Yeah, and like they show you exactly where it came from.
Yeah.
And a bat bites a pig, and then the pig is sold in a wet market.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a feel-good movie.
All right. For my second pick,
You already picked.
I get the
you're
snake.
first. You know,
Yeah,
I
so that's my third pick. My third pick.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I thought Mark went first. I'm an idiot.
No. I am going to go. I had a few in my head. I am going to go with a Spielberg movie. I'm going to go with War of the Worlds.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, I
Little
mean,
Tom Cruise
yeah, got to. I had a space left by Independence Day of Aliens,
action.
so I'm going to fill that void with arguably probably a better made movie. I'm not a huge fan of War of the Worlds, but it is Spielberg. It's Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Dakota Fanning screaming her head off throughout the entire goddamn movie.
Oh,
But it was also shot in Jersey, so that's a thing.
yeah, Bayonne.
Mm-hmm. So, yep, that's my third pick. War of the Worlds. Mark.
Yeah. So this one's a little off the board for me because it's a random movie that I watched and don't even know if it's any good, but I've seen it a bunch and it's when I think of a disaster movie, it's one of the ones that pop in my head. The 1988 movie Miracle Mile, starring Anthony Edwards and Mare Winningham, which is very much this movie is made in the height of Cold War nuclear disaster. The whole point of the movie, from what I remember, is that Anthony Edwards' character sort of gets some kind of knowledge or finds something out about a nuclear missile being launched in Los Angeles or towards Los Angeles. and he runs around trying to warn everybody from what I remember, and it's sort of like a Chicken Little thing, where he can't confirm it and all. And then the end of the movie is just, what I like sometimes in these disaster movies is, they don't, not to spoil it for you, but it has it ends with a helicopter crashing into the tar pits as a warhead detonates, and that's sort of the characters. The movie fades out with them not surviving the thing, but it's very cool. From what I remember, weird look back into a time frame, because the movie was written probably in the late 70s, early 80s. So very much the height of that, worried about the Soviet Union dropping bombs on us.
Sure.
Okay. Dan, you got 2 picks.
Okay. I'm going to go comedy, and I feel a little icky picking this one just because of some of the actors in it are not great, but I still think it's an interesting take on the apocalypse, not the apocalypse. What's the right term for it? Biblical wise, but This Is the End from 2013 with the all-star comedy cast. What do they call it when a Judgment Day, pretty much, right? When everyone gets sucked up to heaven and
The Rapture?
The Rapture, thank you. So this movie takes place during the Rapture, and all of the comedians, Seth Rogen, Franco, Jonah Hill, Danny McBride, all of those guys are left behind. So it has some funny moments in it. Hermione from Harry Potter shows up and steals all of their stuff. Craig Robinson is great in it. It's a good cast for the most part. So I'll take that for my third pick. Get some comedy in there. For my fourth pick, this is a doozy. So I can go comedy again because I'm kind of leaning towards The World's End with the Cornetto trilogy. But I'm also kind of leaning towards something that's super absurd, like Maximum Overdrive.
Okay.
Which is just a terrible movie. But it's Stephen King on just mountains of cocaine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is always fun.
I mean, it would be great if that happens to show up on this podcast in let's say 3 weeks.
Yeah, maybe. I'm looking up disaster movies, and they have The Disaster Artist on here. That's not a disaster movie.
No.
That's a good movie, but let's go to The World's End. Just the obviously better movie. Although not my favorite of the Cornetto trilogy, it subverted my expectations for what I thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I was not expecting aliens to be a part of it. But yeah, obviously you have the Simon Pegg, Nick Frost duo there, Martin Freeman, Rosamund Pike. Just a great cast. So we'll go with The World's End.
Okay. Mark, what about you? Your last pick.
Yeah. So again, I will throw the movie out, and you guys can vote me down or not on this. I wanted to go with I didn't know how you felt with I guess zombie type movies, but I was thinking 28 Days Later. That movie has a lot of the disaster elements where basically society ends while this guy is out, and it's sort of about surviving it and figuring out how to go through it. But I don't know if we're considering that kind of disaster, zombie disasters, as one.
I think zombies are their own genre.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I want to end this podcast, so I'll allow it.
Yeah.
I could have just said Titanic, and then we could have been okay.
Yeah.
With it.
I'll give you 20 Days Later.
Yeah. I thought, because I was thinking, like you said, the best of the Cornetto trilogy, in my opinion, is Shaun of the Dead. But that doesn't have the same disaster, because the world is still technically functioning. At 28 Days Later, it's completely gone. And so, it's an end of the world disaster type situation.
Yeah, no, sounds good to me. I like that movie.
Yeah, fuck it.
Why not? 28 Weeks Later has Jeremy Renner in it. It's even better.
That's a weird way of saying worse.
He gets set on fire. He gets a fucking flamethrower kills him. You guys would love it.
All right. For my last pick, I need some Nicolas Cage. I am going with Knowing. I've
heard
never,
Knowing.
I've never even
fuck.
fucking seen it, but
Do you
Just
know
blind.
how that movie ends, Ant?
probably great, I assume.
Am I the only one that's seen it of the three of us?
I've never seen it.
I've never
Okay.
seen it.
I like how Ant is just going in blind.
Yep.
I mean, it's the whole movie leading up to the ending is great because it's Nicolas Cage and just the whole thing. I could spoil it for you here, or we could talk about it later. But it is a great movie for like 95% of it.
I'm reading the ending of it. That seems weird.
I mean, that's
Yeah,
But
pretty
all I
cool.
know is, from what I remember of the trailer, he can see the future,
Yeah.
and he's got a really bad wig.
Yes.
And I remember
Like I said.
he dodges bullets or something just because he knows the future, something like that from the trailer. And that's all I need to know.
That's pretty.
I don't need to know anything. Yeah, it feels great. From what I could tell, it feels great.
Yeah, I guess.
Honestly, if I had the power to know the future, I would try to dodge bullets too.
Right. But yeah, why not? Knowing it's got a Hemsworth in it. Liam though. Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
I like all our collective disappointment.
We got a little excited only to find out it was Liam.
It's just Liam.
That should follow him everywhere he goes. Oh, it's just Liam.
Yeah, so that's it. That's my last pick. Knowing. We got into the dregs there, didn't we, at the end?
Yeah. There's not. I mean, you could pick. There's a whole bunch of disaster movies.
There's classics: Poseidon Adventure,
Yeah,
Towering Inferno.
Yeah.
There's plenty. Titanic is, according to this list, is technically a disaster movie. Day After Tomorrow wasn't picked.
Yeah.
2012.
That's okay. San Andreas.
Yeah.
Fire Twister.
Fire Twister. That's
Pompeii.
Ugh, might be the worst movie I've ever seen.
You saw that in theaters, right?
I did, and I almost walked out.
And it's like a "fuck you, it's January" movie too.
Yeah, I
February.
only saw that movie because a friend of ours wanted to go see it.
Yep, it seems like that's the type of movie that you guys would see because of that.
Yeah, I didn't want to see it. I'm letting that be known right now. I was against this movie.
All right, so that is our episode of Geostorm. Check us out on our socials. We are on Threads. We are on Instagram. We are on Blue Sky at TikTamPod. We are also on TikTok. Remember that went away for a little bit, but we're back at They Called Us a Movie. And if you have any questions, comments, you want to send us an email, suggest a movie to us, hit us up at TikTamPod@gmail.com. You can also check us out on YouTube. Just search They Called Us a Movie and all of that good stuff. That's it. We're getting out of here. The director of Geostorm is Dean Devlin. So for Dan Aquino and Mark Myers, this is Anthony Vecchio telling Dean Devlin, well, you certainly made a movie, didn't you? Thanks for listening to They Called Us a Movie. Subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts, and be sure to check us out on Twitter and Instagram at TikTamPod. That's TCTAM Pod. You can also check us out on TikTok at They Called Us a Movie.